Welcome back to the Backseat Startup Podcast with your host, Andrew Hutton.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Andrew Hutton, your host for the Backseat Startup Podcast. And I think for the first time ever, I'm joined by fellow Andrew Jernigan, founder of Insured Nomads, who's going to talk to us about all the awesomeness of InsurTech. And maybe the sexiest version of that, traveling the world and being a digital nomad. But no. I joke, I jest. I'm excited to hear about this business. Andrew, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Sadly, I'm joining you from the Philadelphia area. This has been a fun month. I've hit Amsterdam, Paris, London, Berlin, and Dublin, working around the world. So I got to live the lifestyle of our members.
Well, that was, I think I just have to start there, right? You must have been or are, give me your digital nomad story. Give me some of your background, because I don't think it's possible for someone to found this business without having been a digital nomad.
Right.
So give us your bona fides.
The term came about in 1997. I wasn't the one to do it, but I started the lifestyle in 1996. I had my own.
That's OG. That's really that's what's up.
Came from you. Yeah. So this is fun. I was sitting outside the Virgin Megastore. Richard Branson. They had these mega stores, kind of like a Barnes and Noble, except across Europe with music, etc. Sitting outside the store, cafe, writing in my journal, saying, "Okay, there's no country I don't want to go to." I was this young 20-year-old American that's just loving life in Amsterdam at that point. I was working with a nonprofit there, volunteering. It was a good call to Amsterdam, not some of the other reasons people go there. Incredible culture, but I wrote in that journal, "There's no country I don't want to visit, and I want to marry someone from another culture," and I did that. I ended up marrying somebody that was, a pediatrician, but wanted to practice medicine in Africa. We eventually got there. She specialized in travel medicine in Liverpool, which took us there for a season. Our third child was born in Ghana. We've lived and worked across 5 continents with our kids. It's been a wild ride. We've done every form of schooling possible, from teacher traveling with us, world school, local school, Italian school, Canadian school, American school. It goes on, but I'll stop there. They're in counseling. I'm in counseling.
I was going to say, you've given me avenues for a dozen questions, but I assume you've also had health insurance in each of those.
Yes,
or maybe you fell through the cracks at certain points. I'm sure you felt the whole thing.
So it's, we had short-term policies. We had the major expat plan. One case of it, for a season, we had one of the legacy carriers over I think it was about close to $1,000 a month for about 5 years. So they got about $60,000 in premium from us. Yeah, it was just old fashioned. It's one of those things where it's like, I can't believe we're doing this, but yeah, it's important. And we had one claim with them, $5,000 claim, and $3,000 was our responsibility. So we still paid more than they did in that.
I can only imagine, because I think the second you bring up health insurance, people's blood gets boiling or the opinions get happening. And I remember driving somewhere just because, we had one of our annual renewals, and it was a little bit about me and a little bit about the system. I'm like, this is like a massive expense. I'm pretty sure I'm still going to pay everything, I don't know. We don't need to get too political about it, but I'm just like, there's tons of stuff that's not quite working with at least American health insurance and health system. I can only imagine how much more challenging it is when you just add countries across the world and travel. So what are some of those particular issues and challenges when it comes to that literally? Also, I kind of jumped the gun in terms of saying, what is Insured Nomads? I assumed everyone knew. So before I ask all these questions, again, you've almost led us to it, the name, your background, the challenges. So what is Insured Nomads? Give us the elevator pitch.
So Insured Nomads is a high-tech enabled insurance provider for those who are living globally or running a distributed team with employees just scattered around the world. So we can cover the local, national, in most countries as well. So it simplifies it, HR platform where you can view all mental health and languages around the world included,
Cool.
Duty of care program for check-in, for alerts, for all the stuff. The tech stack is incredible. You love it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
we do have a small segment for those consultants, freelancers, like I was way back in the day on Elance before Upwork bought it. But so, yeah, I had brokered about 25 of the leading carriers and said, look, we got to come up with something better. Schedule of benefits is great, but it's just a legal contract saying, okay, yeah, we'll pay for it if you have to use it. Who likes a legal contract?
Yep. I mean, I've dabbled in and around insurance. I've been in the tech scene long enough to see the lemonades, kind of make a splash. And actually, we tried to work on pet insurance. Pet insurance is and was an interesting category. But health insurance, back to the question I was about to ask, is just like the white whale, or it's the big one. It's extremely saturated, extremely inefficient, or just frustrating. What about the international travel makes it like extra interesting to solve?
The biggest thing is it's so complex. When you've got people in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, all around, and HR is having to figure out, okay, how do we find a broker to find a health plan in that place? Pricing is different. The benefits aren't needed to the same level in all these different places. It's been disjointed. It's been a mess for all these years. So it's that exhilarating feeling of, wow, we've done it. We've got a long way to go with our tech stack and things we want to roll out, but it's just that fun thing of, wow, we've got really inexpensive plans in areas where cost of care is low. We've got the robust for where drugs are expensive and hospitals are ridiculously priced. Healthcare is tough. The networks, the payment card integrated for a digital MasterCard so you can pay right there. It's just, it's so much fun.
I love it.
Because how can insurance be fun? But really, when you feel like a Robin Hood and you're trying to make sure you're there and you've got these things in place, it's gratifying.
That's a cool feeling. I love the way you said it. I love this, just seeing your face kind of like describe it. So you're playing with as I imagine most insurance businesses figure out, you're playing with, bigger players, bigger companies, which makes sense as a business, right? Although, there's some nomad roots there. I know that you haven't gotten rid of that. I imagine you'll never will, just because too close to home. But where and the other thing that I know that our audience doesn't know yet, you've been in business for a minute now, for a few years, and I love how a business like this is going to feel like an overnight success story in a couple of years when you're a name brand. But we're talking to you now in the middle,
right.
The messy middle, and there was an early days, right, when I'm sure it was even messier, and you had to have conviction and get off the ground. So what's the journey been like? So your smiles now, you're feeling the upsides. What's been some of the challenges in getting an insurtech business of global scale off the ground? It's almost like I ask it and I'm like, no, I'm, biting off a huge thing here. But what are some of the things that you've had to go through?
Yeah, this is catch me in an hour or an hour ago, and I wasn't all smiles. No, I live with hope. So it's one of those things where I usually am all smiles. I'm the eternal optimist to a fault. But it's, some of the major things are making sure that we're regulatory compliant in some of these places and that we can make sure that we can compete when it comes to price. The ease of use of insurance is tough. There's so much fraud in our industry. So even though people want to make sure that service is fast, there's a lot of documentation needed. We got to talk to the hospital, make sure this actually was paid and that it wasn't a pre-existing condition. We had somebody buy a $30 policy from us and had a heart attack. They wanted to be evac. Turns out they'd already had 4 heart attacks. So kind of can't pay for an evac when they pay, $100 to us or something.
Yeah.
In a case like that. But
so the complexity is the challenge. The complexity is probably the moat and why it's an important business to build. Right. And like you said earlier, the complexity is real. So I'm sure you're abstracting it away. You make it simple, but underneath it's like a duck, churning under the water line and just tons happening. So Andrew, this is really cool. I'm glad everyone listening now has that, top line understanding. They gotten to know you. Let's do our second phase here. Let's dive into a question. Let's go scour. We're not going to scour. We're just going to look. But let me share my screen real fast. We're going to look into the startups subreddits and look for some questions, because what we do on this Backseat Startup Podcast is we answer questions and share wisdom, one founder to an audience of founders. And yeah, so here I'm starting on a question. Maybe we go here because this is kind of pretty broad. This could go any which way. I have 20,000. I want to grow my business. Basically, let's just give advice. We don't have to get into the specifics. Someone spent their own money, trying to grow the business. It sounds like a lot of people, right? And yeah, I have a little bit left and I'm afraid of losing all this money. So also probably a fair common feeling of yeah, you have risk. Entrepreneurs take risk, but entrepreneurs, put a lot on the line. So man, how would you build a business? Or I guess there's too many other questions perhaps, right? So business, staffing agency, direct hire placements. Interesting. I don't know. Does this get your gears going? Anything, or maybe it's even a question. Yeah. Where would you start?
It does. I love to read the details, and I'm all the time on with founders that are looking to start a raise, figure out how to get increase runway, etc. I love this. It's like, is it scalable first? And where are they? How's their tech?
Well, I see this. This person's put some money in, has some money left. The last hurrah. They're not a salesperson. How would you spend the money to try to see if the business is a success? And it says insure the business, but again, it's all. I think this person has it right. This is the last hurrah before you go back. Here's one thought I have to almost start. Cause I'll respond to this comment of this is my last hurrah before I go back to corporate America. Entrepreneurship is a long game. That sounds maybe a little, what is the word? A little negative. But I think entrepreneurship is a long game in that people are going to go from a business to the job, to the business, to the job, because most businesses don't work out. And it's very much par for the course that you're going to have to reset and you're going to have to take those learnings and maybe take it to the next. I don't know. We all want every single one of our current startups to take off for the moon, right? So part of my first thought process through this, if I was to give this person advice, is let's make sure we're okay with where we're at. And that you're not mortgaging your life, things like that. And if someone's on settled ground and this 20K is the right 20K to spend, let's assume that it is. Where do you see people needing to focus when they're in this early stage? Maybe that's another way to re-ask the question. Where do you see most people skipping steps, but really they should not?
Getting lost in building the best product or more features before they've gotten traction with a few customers.
Yeah.
And I think that can happen through some partnerships. If I wouldn't spend that 20K on sales, I'd say, okay, let's figure out how to get some good partners that need the service. And now, if I was building this one, I'd say, let's build in some AI tools that automate some of this as well. There's a great one similar.
Oh yeah.
It's talentway.io. It's one of those things. They've built a powerful AI tool for a staffing agency.
Yep. To your point of getting customers, if someone said this to me live and they told me, but sales is not my strong point, I'd be I'd get my sensei hat on. I'd be the challenge is the way. Right. The fact that you're telling me that, and maybe I can also infer that you're a builder by trade, I'm you probably overbuilt. You probably built too much, right? In a staffing agency, you don't have to build very much. This is more of a relationship game anyway, right? So the challenge is the way. You have to go through it. You have to sell in a way that I'm not sure where you spend money on sales. It's go hit people up on LinkedIn, go stand at a corner. I don't know. Where do you spend money on sales, Andrew? Okay, I know you can spend money on sales, but how would you spend money wisely on sales? Let's say, so sales is the focus. Where would you, if you were to be judicious but not overspend on sales, what kinds of things would you invest in?
Outsourced good sales folks out of, Philippines is just amazing hospitality culture,
Yeah.
low cost, good service. That amount of money would go a long way.
Yes.
And
You're onto something.
provide some good results.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a number, especially even the Philippines specifically, a number of these kind of tech focused outsourcing agencies that will get you somebody full time, dialing for dollars, finding people on like doing that work for like $2 or $3 grand a month, $3 or $4 grand a month. Right. So you said like you could go for 6 months with this. You know?
Yeah, bottleneck distance assistance. Call it virtual assistance, they call it distance assistance. It was one of those
that's cool.
Amazing program.
Yep. And I find it fascinating that a lot of them have honed in on the Philippines. And as an international person, it sounds like you know why. That's really interesting. I love that tactic. I think if you got something going, you can double, triple down on yourself. But maybe the question is they don't even have something going, right? They kind of don't know where to put that person and stick them loose on, right? How did you figure out that your first customers were your first customers? Maybe you intuitively. Some people are so deep in their industries, it's like it was obvious. I don't know if that was you, right? Other people had to figure it out just by trial and error, right? What was it like for you guys?
For me, I surround myself with people who know a lot more than me. So whether that's advisors or, in my case, co-founders that had that distribution network from legacy companies that they've been with in insurance within our space. So, get folks around you that can speak wisdom in.
Yeah.
There's good counsel. You can get past some of these obstacles. My last call was with one of our advisors, Eric Reese. He wrote The Lean Startup and The Startup Way.
Oh, that's fun.
If you haven't read them, get those books. It's
Eric Reese is OG. This name dropping here, Andrew. Oh, that's.
It's just I was on with him last hour because it's just on missional governance. Just get those wise counsel folks around you.
Yeah.
So that you can get the traction, you can get those unknowns about running.
That's what it is. It's so much of a startup is unknown unknowns, and they'll either get you at the wrong time because you'll just stumble into them, or probably just find yourself in quicksand like this person, where it's like, I don't even know what thing to tackle because they're all unknown unknowns. It just is like ambiguous, amorphous challenge, right? And so the first step is always just making sense of the path to then figure out what fights to fight. Right.
Yeah.
I definitely resonate with that.
If you got investors, they have seen it. They've done it a lot of times. It took me a while to realize. Go to them with the questions.
Yeah, there's definitely. I'll almost like take on this person as like persona. You can give me advice, but there's always this ego thing where it's like, I know my business so much better. These, even investors, especially even if they put money into your business and you're like literally on the same team, right? It's like, I've always felt that, like, how do you get past the ego to go get these? Sounds like it's natural for you, but I don't think it is for everybody.
Yeah. A lot of times folks have to walk away, shut it down.
Yeah.
Because it's a wild ride and there's not a specific manual for it. There's some excellent resources, but are you going to study all the time or build your business? And a lot of times it's a thing of building and then realizing, oh no, built the wrong way, wrong time, too slow.
And then you take it. I mean, most of us have learned through those just try like that failure, right? That's kind of how it goes. And, I think we would love to, and this is kind of the part, this podcast is literally trying to impart some of this wisdom ahead of time. So maybe you can learn and maybe avoid, but yeah, you just got to keep putting one foot in front of the other, is a good word. So Andrew, let's we'll use that as the last word because I think it's a good one. I think for somebody in the shoes of, asking big questions about how to kind of make your final or a little bit of investment go. Again, I imagine everyone has a version of that, whether it's a 20 grand chunk of change or it's your last 3 or 4 months. Frankly, I'll just come back to your first thing, start selling. And if you don't have sales and that time runs out or that money runs out, that means the business ran out, And
Yeah.
you know, there's zero shame in that. It's just how it goes.
Right.
We learn and we move on. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're not defined by our business. Our business isn't our life. So it's great to have you all tune in today, and until next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Andrew, before you go, you're just trying to leave. Tell everyone how to find you. Like, where is Insured Nomads on the internet? What's the URL? What's the call to action? Where should people go to?
Yeah, insurednomads.com. Insured Nomads on LinkedIn, everywhere else. Just the simple combine the two together. I'm Andrew Jernigan on most channels as well. So
perfect.
Connect with me. DM me.
Perfect. Yeah.
I can't help you. I'll connect you to somebody much better than me.
Yeah, Andrew, it sounds exactly. This is how the startup world goes around. And if you happen to be a nomad, jump in. And if you happen to represent a big company who needs this for their provider, find your way there. So getting the word out. Well, Andrew, thank you so much. This was a really awesome conversation. Great wisdom and words of advice. And thanks for being on the Backseat Startup Podcast. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Until next time.
Cheers, everyone.
The Backseat Startup Podcast is brought to you by StartupStage, formerly known as Startup Founder Daily. StartupStage is the place to showcase your startup and compete for features across our channels. Each week, users can vote for their favorite startups. The top 3 companies, as determined by the votes, are then selected for special features across our blog, podcast, newsletter, and social media platforms. Hit the link in the description below to apply.